In 2015, 3rd Division Coventry City tweeted something that felt almost surreal. "Welcome to Coventry City, Joe Cole." Not because he wasn't a good player, but because at one point, Joe Cole wasn't supposed to end up there. He was supposed to become something legendary. If you're too young to remember, understand this. Joe Cole wasn't just talented, he was hyped like a future Ballon d'Or winner. Years earlier, Brazilian commentator Galvão Bueno had raved mid-game, saying Beckham is fame, Lampard is fame, but if Joe Cole really plays, you'd swear he was South American. Praise almost unheard of for an English teenager. The hysteria began absurdly early. At just 15, newspapers claimed he was earning more than the Prime Minister, turning him into the blueprint for the modern English Wonderkid before he had even made a senior appearance. What makes it crazier is that he didn't even join a proper academy until his early teens. In his own words, his dad wasn't a football man and didn't even know he could play. Yet when a West Ham scout brought Harry Redknapp to watch a random 12-year-old in Sunday League, Redknapp reportedly said, "Bloody hell, Mike, where's his dad?" Within a couple of years, he was training with the first team, fearlessly taking on hardened pros like Neil Razor Ruddock in one-on-ones and gliding past them, earning the nickname The Conjurer from senior players who couldn't believe what they were seeing. The rumors about £5,000 a week at 15 followed him everywhere, something he later said he hated because even teachers began treating him differently. But inside football circles, the belief was real. Redknapp admitted that if Joe had demanded £30,000 a week at 16, he would have paid it, especially after Cole scored 7 goals in an 8-1 England youth demolition of Spain. A performance so outrageous that Sir Alex Ferguson became obsessed, eventually offering £10 million for the 16-year-old. An absurd figure at the time when only Alan Shearer had cost more in Premier League history, and even Ronaldo Nazario's move to Barcelona had been cheaper. Ferguson sent him Manchester United shirts with his name on them, invited him to FA Cup finals, did everything possible. But Cole stayed loyal, signing his professional contract on the pitch at West Ham and telling the crowd, "One day, you'll tell your grandchildren about this." He debuted at 17 alongside Ian Wright, yet it was the FA Youth Cup final that truly detonated the hype. Demand was so overwhelming, kickoff had to be delayed and an extra stand opened, and Cole repaid the chaos with magic as West Ham won 9-0. Still the most dominant final in the competition's history, flicking the ball over defenders, finishing with outrageous confidence, making it all look unfairly easy. This wasn't normal hype. This was England's golden boy before England even knew how to handle one. And the scary part was that the story had only just begun. No matter the pressure, no matter the noise, at just 17 years old, Joe Cole stepped straight into West Ham's first team and helped drive them toward the Intertoto Cup title, securing UEFA Cup football for the first time in the club's history. Kevin Keegan couldn't stop praising him, and the whispers began immediately. Could he make England's squad for Euro 2000? Imagine that. A teenager, barely out of school, already being discussed as a senior international solution. And yet, even then, the warning signs were there. Cole later admitted, "My biggest fear is not fulfilling my potential." That sentence alone tells you everything. The Guardian perfectly captured the hysteria surrounding him. In England, the thinking goes, we have a skillful player. Finally, therefore, he must be the most skillful player in the world. The pedestal was being built higher and higher, and he was still climbing it. Inevitably, Sven-Göran Eriksson handed him his debut, and just a year later, Joe Cole was playing at the World Cup. From Sunday League to the biggest stage in football in under a decade. But club football doesn't care about fairy tales. By his 5th season at West Ham, hope filled the air. With David James in goal, Michael Carrick pulling strings, Defoe and Di Canio up front, this felt like a team ready to break through. So confident were they that the club didn't spend a single pound in the summer transfer window. And then, disaster. Injuries piled up. It took 7 matches to secure their first win. After a brief revival, they went 15 games without another victory. By December, they were bottom of the league, a position no team had ever escaped from. And to make matters worse, Paolo Di Canio, the captain and emotional leader, imploded in typical fashion, clashing with the manager and getting himself dropped. Suddenly, at just 21 years old, Joe Cole was handed the captain's armband of a sinking ship. Les Ferdinand arrived in January. Glenn Johnson stepped in. And somehow, from February onward, Cole dragged that wounded squad through an 11-game run with only 1 defeat. A defeat that came just 2 days after manager Glenn Roeder was forced to step down following a brain tumor diagnosis. The season felt cursed, and when the final whistle blew on the last game, a draw that confirmed relegation, West Ham earned a strange, painful title, the best team ever to go down. Almost every player was poached by the Premier League elite, and Joe Cole, Club Player of the Year, was snapped up by Roman Abramovich as one of the first symbols of Chelsea's new era. Claudio Ranieri labeled him the heir to Gianfranco Zola. No pressure, but it didn't click immediately. Instead of becoming the creative centerpiece, Cole was reduced to substitute cameos. The same flair that made him famous was now used against him. Joe Pony, they called him, as if skill was suddenly a flaw. By the end of the season, Ranieri was reportedly open to loaning him out to CSKA Moscow or Everton. Imagine that. England's golden boy, almost shipped away. Cole later admitted, "It certainly crossed my mind. I wasn't going to make it at Chelsea." His stock had fallen so far he didn't even get a single minute at Euro 2004. And then Jose Mourinho arrived. Everything changed. To some, Mourinho tamed him. To others, he saved him. The debate still lives on. Was Cole's artistry suffocated by tactical discipline or refined by it? What's undeniable is that Mourinho was relentless. After Joe scored a winner against Liverpool, Mourinho's reaction was brutally honest. Yes, he scored. But after the goal, his game was finished. I needed 11 players but only had 10. Joe has two faces. One is beautiful and one I don't like. That was Mourinho, praise wrapped in warning. Any dip in discipline meant the bench next week. Some critics claimed it was like forcing an artist to paint with boxing gloves on. But slowly, it was working. By March, Cole was scoring screamers and winning Premier League Player of the Month. Mourinho dismissed the praise, saying if Joe was succeeding, it was because he was always open to criticism. In the Champions League, he delivered one of his finest performances against Barcelona, assisting in a famous night at Stamford Bridge. Then followed it with 2 assists and a goal against Bayern Munich. And after a crushing defeat at Camp Nou, Mourinho reportedly tore into the squad one by one, dismantling them verbally, until he reached Cole. Joe braced himself for impact. Instead, Mourinho looked at him and said, You did okay." From a manager like that, it was everything. That moment didn't just rebuild his confidence, it reshaped him. The reckless prodigy became a disciplined champion. The conjurer learned control. And under Mourinho, Joe Cole stopped being just potential. He became a winner. One thing Joe Cole always was honest. Honest about his fears. Honest about his flaws. Honest about the weight he carried. And if Mourinho had already placed a Premier League medal around his neck in that first season, the next campaign elevated him even further. Many argue that 2005-06 was Joe Cole at his absolute peak, and it's hard to disagree. He had already scored decisive goals against Arsenal and Liverpool, and Brazilian legend Pelé himself claimed Cole was the only English player who could fit into Brazil's national team. That wasn't just praise. That was validation of everything he'd been hyped to be. Then came the title decider against Manchester United. The pressure couldn't have been higher. Cole didn't hide. He assisted 1 goal and then scored a stunning solo effort to secure Chelsea's 2nd consecutive league title. He was named in the PFA Team of the Year, and England's manager publicly campaigned for him to be Player of the Year. The Golden Boy had matured into a genuine star. At the 2006 World Cup, 2 games in, he delivered what might have been the defining performance of his career. Against Sweden, he unleashed one of the greatest goals in World Cup history. A dipping, swerving volley from distance that exploded into the top corner, before delivering a perfect cross to salvage the draw. That night elevated him to Ballon d'Or nominee status. Think about that journey from Sunday League to the Ballon d'Or shortlist. But football rarely allows fairy tale momentum to last. In November, he fractured his foot, 4 months out. And by the time he returned, the Mourinho era was collapsing. Roman Abramovich and Mourinho had decided London wasn't big enough for both of them. Mourinho left, stability left with him. Still, Cole fought. He produced arguably his most consistent season, registering 19 goal contributions and winning Chelsea's Player of the Year award. Yet somehow, it became a year defined by near misses. They lost the League Cup final in extra time.